Daddy, 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 Annalise lisped as she came into the kitchen. Annalise, don't make me drop kick you, John Cormier threatened. What do you want? 8-year-old Annalise giggled, knowing her father would never in a million years actually drop kick her. But she didn't stop her playful manipulation. You know you're my favorite daddy, daddy, daddy in the whole wide world, Annalise continued, wrapping her arms around his middle from behind. And after I drop kick you, I'm going to fold you in half and stuff you in the back garden with all the weeds, John continued with his empty threats. Come on, sweetheart, what do you want? Can we invite my mommy and Mr. C and my sisters to the barbecue, please, pretty please? Annalise whined. Sweetheart, if you want them here, invite them. I don't have any problem with them coming, John told his daughter. Yes, Annalise whooped and scampered away before her father could change his mind. Daddy, 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 Nina Sanborn lisped, coming up behind John. Nina, hate to break it to you, but that doesn't really work. John smiled at the beautiful 18-year-old blonde. Are you having breakfast with us? See, it does work, Nina giggled. Oh, whatever, John laughed, ladling batter into the cast-iron skillet. How do you want your eggs? Scrambled, both Nina and Annalise said simultaneously. Jinx! Annalise cried out. Now you can't say anything until someone says your name. Ha 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 ha. John had cut the grass the previous afternoon. He had also cleaned the grill and marinated the brisket overnight. Now he piled wood chips into the bottom of the smoker, lit them, and arranged the coals in the charcoal grill. Mom wants to know what time, Annalise called out from the back door. 5 o'clock, John called back. Tell her to bring their bathing suits if they want to go swimming. She wants to know if she can bring anything, Annalise called out a minute later. April's attempt at potato salad had been pretty dismal. The half-raw and half-overcooked chunks of potatoes had no flavor. That had been bad enough, but John had found a long brown hair in the clumps of potatoes and mayonnaise. Her Waldorf salad wasn't much better. The apples had been old and mealy. Tell her we've got it covered, John called back. Mr. John, my daddy wants to know if he needs to bring his chocolate pie, Nina asked, appearing in the doorway. Tell him he better, Annalise said. Your name's Mr. John? Nina teased the girl. Tell him I'm really hoping he does. Oh, and that 7-Up cake he's so proud of. John smiled at the babysitter. John kept his eyes above the 18-year-old girl's large chest in her tight top. When Nina turned to dash back through the house, however, John did glance down at her snug blue jeans and her sweet bubble butt. Seriously? She can't bring anything? Annalise asked, cell phone still in her pudgy hand. No, sweetheart. We've got it covered. And Mr. Owen's bringing dessert, so she just needs to pack their bathing suits, John said, closing the smoker. Thank you, Daddy, Annalise said when John came into the house. John asked, rubbing his face and feeling the stubble. Standing in front of his bathroom mirror, John vaguely recognized the 18-year-old boy who used to watch his reflection as he knotted his bright red silk tie. The shirt was starched, and the collar was not cooperating as John tried to button it. As John stepped out of the hall bathroom, his mother, Lisa Cormier, still wore her disapproving frown. David Cormier, David Jr., DJ Cormier, and Andy Cormier had all made it clear they thought he was making a huge mistake. Fine, son, you love her. Ain't love grand, David said tersely. And if you're still in love 3-4 years from now, then go on and marry her. She's pregnant, isn't she? Lisa interjected. She's pregnant. She is not pregnant, all right? She is not pregnant, John snapped as he slid on his suit jacket. At her home, April Faye Strickler was receiving the same treatment. Ann Strickler was convinced that April was pregnant, and Michael Strickler was looking for a reason to thrash the little bastard who dared defile his only daughter, his precious little girl. For the last time, I am not pregnant, April shrilled. The Reverend Brandon Wright performed a beautiful ceremony for the very sparse attendees, and Salvatore's Italian dining catered the sparsely attended reception. Throughout the reception, John and April heard over and over that they were making a huge mistake. Finally, John yelled, loud enough to be heard over the cheap sound system of the DJ, that he and April were adults. Well, Mr. Grown-Up, let's see how well you do without our help, David Cormier snarled before storming out of the reception hall. The Strickler clan also declared they would not help the newlyweds. They could sink or swim on their own. John and April smugly said that this was fine. Carrying his bride over the threshold of the single-wide trailer, John brought the giggling, slightly drunk girl from the front door to the bedroom. As a practical joke, DJ had not fastened the bed frame. When John placed April onto the bed, it collapsed, and John was struck in the back of the head by the particle board headboard. Their wedding night was spent in the ER of Alliance Square Health Facility, waiting to get 7 stitches put into the back of John's head. John had fallen in love with April Strickler the first time he'd seen her. She was petite, 4'11", though she claimed to be 5 feet even. At that time, she'd been a little on the chubby side, at 138 pounds. At 5 feet, 10 inches, John was also 138 pounds. Her brown hair hung down below her buttocks. Thankfully, she wore it in a ponytail, so her hair did not fully hide those delectable buttocks from view. Her 35C chest stretched the light pink cotton shirt taut, and John's eyes did flicker over the very nice sight. But he then focused his light brown eyes onto her bright green ones. April would later admit that John did not stand out among the crowd of gawky, immature adolescent males. He had thick brown hair, light brown eyes, and a bunch of pimples. His scrawny physique did not garner any attention from April or her classmates, but John had been the only one brave enough to walk over and introduce himself to her. As they were freshmen at Lloyd M. Benson High School, most of the 9th graders were strangers to one another. April's mother said she was too young to date, so John gathered a group of buddies, and April gathered a group of gal pals, and they went on group dates. On these outings, John and April managed to sit together, walk together, and whisper and giggle together. Whenever a new boy joined their group, April was polite and friendly to the newcomer. When an older boy at their high school showed some interest in April, she would giggle and simper, but assured John that he was her number one, her man. If John showed any other girl attention, April would flare up in uncontrolled rage. Girls and John learned to steer clear of one another to avoid April's wrath. His braces hurt his teeth tremendously, but when April gave him a shy kiss, John forgot about the pain in his mouth. When she slipped her soft tongue into his mouth, he forgot how sore his gums were. By the time of their wedding, the hated braces had done their job. In the 2 pictures John still had from that day, his teeth were white and straight. April's own smile was radiant. Salvatore's Italian dining went out of business 4 months after their wedding. April came home to their rented trailer, distraught over losing her job. Her mother and father were unsympathetic. In truth, Anne sobbed hot, bitter tears after ending the phone call with her daughter. When Michael moved to hug her, Anne slapped his hands away. "Well, gee, sport, that's tough," David said when John called to complain about having to cut their cable television. "But you're an adult. I can't tell you what to do, right?" You're pregnant?" John asked, vacillating between rage and despair when April told him the good news 2 months after losing her job. "Well, grown up, what are you going to do now?" David asked John. John and April cut all expenses to the bone. John took to walking the 3 miles from their trailer to Alliance Square Health Facility. His lunches now consisted of 1 peanut butter and jelly sandwich and 1 apple or orange. He gave up the Little Debbie's Swiss cake rolls that he loved. April used their car sparingly for doctor's appointments, grocery shopping, and the occasional visit to her mother's house when her dad was at work. Most of the crew at Alliance seemed content with a good enough is good enough attitude, but John had a baby on the way. He took pride in his work and cleaned up after himself. John also treated the patients of the hospital with deference, no matter how disagreeable they might be. "Dude, do you know why she's here?" John asked. "No. Do you?" Manuel replied. "No, I don't. For all we know, she's in so much pain she can't even think," John pointed out. As April's belly grew, Anne and Lisa felt compassion for the new mommy-to-be. They helped with groceries. Mommies and babies needed nutrition. Lisa filled the car's tank with gas. Mommies needed to be able to get to the doctor's office. "Must be nice," John grumbled, as April happily told him about going to Bully's with her mother for a juicy hamburger. "Aw, damn! Holland's? For ice cream?" John whined when April mentioned her mother had taken her to Holland's for their hand-cranked double-double chocolate ice cream. "No grandchild of mine is sleeping in a nasty old crib," Lisa declared when April's cousin loaned them a crib that had definitely seen better days. John did not whine or complain about the new crib, the changing table, or the cute dresser his mother and father bought. He certainly did not complain about the 6 bags of groceries. There was a box of Little Debbie's Swiss cake rolls in the first bag. The insurance policy John had obtained through his employment covered a good portion of the bills, but the remaining expenses were bleeding him dry. And because she was pregnant and near her due date, there were very few employment opportunities for April. April's pregnancy made for a striking sight. With only basic TV and the cheapest phone plan, entertainment options were slim. One Sunday morning at 4:14, April woke John. He had just finished a late shift, dealing with a drunk driver crashing into a substation, had left them without power at Alliance Square Health Facility. "John, baby, I think the baby's coming," April gasped. "Wake me up when you're sure," John grumbled, already drifting back to sleep. "Ow!" John yelped as April grabbed a handful of hair. "I said I think the baby's coming," April screamed. "Got your attention now?" Annalise Louise Cormier was a beautiful baby, with a shock of brown hair and deep brown eyes. Fortunately, she took after the Stricklers in looks, avoiding the Cormier family's distinctive feature. Watching April breastfeed Annalise, named after her grandmother's, John felt a love he had never known before. Yet, he also faced fears he had never felt. What if he failed as a father? What if he couldn't provide for his family? What if something happened to April? "Louise?" Lisa asked as the 4 grandparents peered through the nursery window. "My mother's name," Michael Strickler replied. The stroller struggled with the gravel paths of the trailer park. John often ended up carrying both stroller and infant until they reached the smoother sidewalk, where he and April would take Annalise for walks through the neighborhood. To stay fit, John managed to acquire a few free weights from a friendly physical therapist at the hospital. April walked alongside him, swinging her hands back and forth as they strolled. An influenza outbreak swept through Oakleaf County, inundating Alliance Square Health with patients, including 3 out of the 6 maintenance workers. John, Clyde, and Manuel worked double shifts for 6 consecutive days. On the 7th day, John succumbed to the illness and was sent home. He isolated himself in the small 3rd bedroom to protect April and Annalise from getting sick. For 2.5 days, he slept straight through, enduring night sweats and teeth-chattering chills. On Sunday, he finally woke up, barely making it to the hall bathroom in time to relieve himself. After a lukewarm shower, John realized he was famished. He stumbled out of the bathroom, a threadbare towel looped around his waist. The trailer was eerily empty. The blue floral print sofa and the brown vinyl recliner were gone from the small living room. The 32-inch tube television no longer sat on the bookcase, which was also missing. The kitchenette set his cousin had sold to them at a discount was nowhere to be seen. Plates, cups, pots, and pans, all gone. John's cell phone was dead. He hadn't charged it since Thursday morning. Worse, there was no charger in sight. It had been in the missing nightstand. His clothes lay scattered on the floor of the empty bedroom. John quickly dressed and staggered outside. "Oh, no, bitch. Nuh-uh. That car? That car's mine," John snapped angrily. A neighbor with a similar cheap cell phone let John borrow a charger. He also offered John a bologna, an American cheese sandwich on stale white bread. John wasn't fond of bologna, disliked American cheese, and thought the bread should be toasted if it was stale, but he devoured the sandwich as if it were a T-bone steak. "Yeah, man, I had that flu shit going around too," the neighbor commiserated while John ate. April's phone went straight to voicemail. John left her a stern message, giving her 5 minutes to call back, or he'd involve the police in the theft of their furniture and car. 10 minutes later, with no response, John dialed the police. Cecil Blackham's smirk vanished when he arrived at the trailer park. John had him arrested. Cecil didn't have permission to drive John's car, and the fresh scratches in the paint added vandalism to the charges. Andrew J. Walker, an attorney and a friend of John's brother DJ, had shared a few college classes with John. Andrew successfully secured visitation rights for John and meticulously documented every instance where April obstructed John's attempts to see his daughter. Visitation with Annalise was John's top priority. He also sought the return of all furniture except for Annalise's crib, changing table, and his own bed. Nothing that April or her arrogant boyfriend Cecil Blackham had used was acceptable to him. Judge Glasspool attentively listened to both sides in the courtroom. He observed the self-satisfied April and her sneering boyfriend Cecil, then turned his gaze to the harried and distraught John. After reviewing all the case documents, Judge Glasspool asked April about the whereabouts of Annalise Louise Cormier at that moment. April defiantly refused to disclose where their infant daughter was. With April's parents present in the courtroom, it became clear that Annalise was not with her maternal grandparents. "For God's sake, April, tell them where she is," Anne implored as the bailiff escorted the no longer smirking April into custody. In the parking lot of Oakleaf County Courthouse, Cecil confronted John. Though younger and physically larger by 30 pounds and 5 inches, Cecil was a struggling insurance salesman, while John endured a demanding physical job. "Just can't stand it, can you? The better man took your lady away." Cecil sneered, his British accent adding a hint of absurdity to his taunt. Cecil landed the first punch, confirmed by John's attorney and in-laws. 3 punches later, Cecil lay sprawled on the grimy asphalt of the parking lot. "Feel better?" April screamed at John during the next court hearing. "Huh? Feel like a big man?" "I don't feel bad," John shrugged to his attorney. April fainted when Judge Glasspool awarded primary custody to John, citing April's behavior and that of her partner as pivotal factors in his decision. The judge was open to granting April visitation rights, provided Cecil Andrew Blackham was not present. But I'm the mom. The mom always gets full custody," April protested tearfully. "A responsible mom usually does," Judge Glasspool acknowledged. "But a responsible mom doesn't start a new relationship while still married. Move out taking everything, including furniture and kitchenware, leaving her flu-ridden husband without a word of her plans. A responsible mom doesn't deny the father access to his child or refuse to disclose the child's whereabouts to the court. Because you've shown this court that you're not acting responsibly, the decision favors the father." "How will I pay child support?" April screamed, shocked by Judge Glasspool's verdict. "Have you considered finding a job?" Judge Glasspool replied with a hint of irony. "Now that you have more free time, it might be a good opportunity." "Take pictures of everything," Andrew advised when John and April arranged for the return of John's furniture. The glasses and dishes lay shattered, their boxes clattering and clinking as Cecil callously tossed them onto the porch of John's rented trailer. The furniture bore deep slashes, and the tube television had been kicked in. "You're a goddamn adult, April," Michael snarled as he wrote out a check for John Cormier. "For God's sake, start acting like one." "And keep that English piece of shit away from me," Michael added, slapping the check into April's hand. "Why, April? You had a good man. We never wanted you two to get married," Anne sniffled. "But that boy worked hard every single day." "And now there's no food, no television," April complained. "Damn it, the new Magic Mike movie was coming out, and I wanted to see it. You left and hooked up with that slimeball British asshole just because you couldn't go see some stupid movie?" Michael erupted, a vein bulging on his forehead. "It wasn't just a movie. When's the last time we had pizza? When's the last time we went to Scoops for a sundae?" April tried to explain. "You know what? No, I'm not paying for this," Michael yelled, snatching the check from April's hand. He tore the check into halves, then quarters, and tossed the 4 pieces into the kitchen sink before turning on the garbage disposal. "Michael, turn the water on first," Anne shrieked. "You and that sleazeball figure out how you're going to pay that boy. Any money left? Oh, why don't you two go to the damn movies, huh?" Michael screamed, then stormed out of the room. "I can't believe—" "No, April, I won't help you out of this one," Anne snapped, turning off the garbage disposal. "Call your boyfriend and tell him to come get you." While Cecil and April struggled to scrape together the money, Cecil owed John Cormier for the damage to his property and car. John juggled being a full-time dad and a full-time employee. On top of that, he had decided to take online college courses. He was determined not to remain a low-level employee forever. "Son, as long as you're trying, I'm willing to help," David Cormier reassured his son. "Your mother and I are here to support you." Lisa glanced at her husband with a smirk. David might say they were both willing to help, but she knew she would be doing most of the work. He hadn't been much help with their 3 sons' diapers, and she doubted he'd be any better with their granddaughter. "And who's the most beautiful girl in the world? Huh? Who's the prettiest little girl?" Lisa cooed to the wiggling infant. "Oh, dear God, who's the smelliest little girl in the world?" John chuckled as he changed a full diaper. "Annalise, did you really eat that?" "Uh-huh, and I stood right here and watched you feed it to her," David laughed. "Annalise, Daddy's diapers didn't smell any better, you hear?" Anne and Michael Strickler approached John, having already spoken with Lisa and David Cormier. They had hoped the grandparents could influence John's decision, but both sets had refused to get involved. "So, son," Michael began, trying to connect with John. "I'm not a piece of toast," John replied with a grin. What? What does that mean?" Michael asked, puzzled. "So why are you trying so hard to butter me up? Mr. Strickler, just say it, huh?" John swayed gently as he fed his baby girl a bottle of formula. "What Michael's trying to say," Anne interjected. Michael's still here. Michael hasn't left the room," Michael snapped. We're sorry. We're sorry about how we treated you when you and April were together," Anne said, her gaze fixed on the beautiful infant in John's arms. "And we'd really like to be a part of our granddaughter's life," Michael pleaded. I'd like for you to be a part of her life too," John admitted, setting aside any lingering hurt feelings or animosity. "She's already quite a handful, and she's not even crawling yet." So Lisa and Anne worked out a schedule. They began texting John every morning at 5:30, reminding the young father which set of grandparents was supposed to watch their grandchild that day. "Mother, why is there a playpen in the living room?" April asked one afternoon when she came to the Strickler home, hoping to borrow some money. "For when I watch Annalise," Anne replied casually, not bothering to lie. For when you're babysitting, you get to see my daughter?" April shrieked in disbelief. And if you had been just a little more grown up, you'd get to see her too," Anne remarked calmly. "As for whether I'll loan you $100, no." "What?" April whined. "Why not? I need—" "April, a loan implies you'll be paying me back," Anne explained firmly. "I will," April hastily assured. "With what?" April, do you have a job? Did you win the lottery? Did some rich relative I don't know about leave you a bunch of money? How are you going to pay me back?" Anne queried. April stammered, unable to provide a convincing answer. "You're not. You're just hoping I'll give you $100 and forget about it," Anne stated bluntly. "No, tell your boyfriend, Mr. Wonderful, he can take you to the movies all the time to get you some money." "Oh, you're here," Michael said, entering the home after a long day's work at Judge Roberts Airport. "Hi, sweetheart. How was your day?" "It was good. Oh, that Annalise, I swear. She's grown a foot since the last time we saw her," Anne laughed. "Oh, no. She's got 3 feet now?" Michael teased, and Anne giggled, playfully slapping him on the buttocks. "You know what I mean, silly," Anne said affectionately. "But seriously, she is growing like a weed and—" April sobbed, letting hot tears of self-pity flow as she departed from her parents' home. Cecil responded promptly to April's text, but he couldn't come get her right away. He was on the verge of closing a sale that would help them catch up on their bills. "I'm going to need to," April murmured to herself, contemplating how she would break the news to Cecil that she was pregnant. Revealing her pregnancy slowed down the progress of her divorce from John. Judge Glasspool hesitated to grant John the divorce while April was expecting. "Mr. Cormier, if the child should prove to be yours, we would then need to reconsider the previous custody ruling," the judge stated solemnly. "Her doctor hasn't cleared her for interesting time in bed yet. The baby isn't mine," John assured his attorney, Andrew. "Are you in any rush to get divorced? Is there a second Mrs. Cormier on the horizon?" Andrew asked. "No, when would I have time?" John replied. Believe it or not, people make time. Andrew smiled knowingly. John had removed April from his insurance, and Cecil claimed he couldn't add April to his insurance because they weren't married. Agatha Ann Blackham was born at Collier Hospital, the charity hospital in Low Ridge, Texas. John had been relieved when Annalise was born healthy, and he was glad April had come through the difficult birth well. If John felt any disappointment that their child was a daughter and not a son, he kept it to himself, shielding April and her parents from any such sentiments. After learning he had a daughter, Cecil attempted to lighten the mood with a quip, but April was deeply hurt. After a brief moment, Cecil brusquely told her to get a stiff upper lip before leaving the ward. Seeking to bring some harmony, John extended an invitation to April, Cecil, and their newborn daughter to Annalise's first birthday party. Still resentful over his debts to John, Cecil refused to attend and forbade April from going to John's parents' home for the celebration. "I'm very disappointed in you," Anne expressed when she called April that evening after the party. April struggled to find an excuse. "That's your daughter. Unless you're in the hospital or the morgue, there's no excuse for missing her first birthday," Anne stated firmly before ending the call. Returning from another fruitless day at work to a cold trailer, Cecil shrugged, finding solace in the silence. When April wasn't silent, she was incessantly prattling about TV shows, their imagined future riches from his sales taking off, or any number of trivial matters. With parentage of Agatha Ann Blackham established to the court's satisfaction, John and April's divorce was finalized. Andrew handed John the bill for his legal services, assuring him there was no rush for payment. "Why is divorce so expensive?" DJ, John's older brother, asked, eyeing the hefty $5,732 bill from Andrew Walker. "Why?" John responded glumly. "Because they're worth it," DJ quipped, and John shook his head but managed a smile. With $50 here and $100 there, John began chipping away at his bill. His days were a blur of work, caring for his daughter, and online courses at Connolly College. As a single parent, his income was stretched to the limit, despite cutting expenses to the bone. When Clyde Meadows, John's immediate supervisor, began showing signs of problematic drinking, John was promoted. While he appreciated the higher pay, he despised being on call 24/7. Lisa and David grew used to late-night calls about emergencies at Alliance Square, with John often bringing Annalise along. Anne and Michael adjusted to delayed pickups when something demanded John's attention. Yet, he continued to soldier on. Against Cecil's wishes, April attended Annalise's second birthday. She defied him, calling her mother, Anne, who drove April and Agatha to the Cormiers' home. During the celebration, John displayed not only civility, but friendliness towards April. He even lavished attention on Agatha, complimenting April on her daughter's appearance. By Annalise's third birthday, Cecil begrudgingly accompanied April to the party. He sat stolidly in a chair, rejecting any offers of food or drink from John, Lisa, or David. Anne and Michael ignored Cecil's presence as they focused on celebrating with Annalise, while April immersed herself in her eldest child's special day. "I cannot believe how insufferable those people were," Cecil snapped as they drove away from the Cormier home. April said nothing, adjusting uncomfortably in her seat. Her 7-month pregnant belly made wearing a seatbelt cumbersome, but she feared potential harm if she didn't wear the confining device. All false cheer and, "Would you like anything to drink?" Cecil continued his harangue. "Cecil, what were they supposed to say? Ignore you?" April asked. "We need to hurry. I'm about to pee on myself." Evelyn Ann Blackham was born at Alliance Square Health Facility. April and Cecil were married, so Cecil had no excuse to prevent putting April on his insurance. Again, Cecil made little effort to disguise his disappointment at having another daughter. He left the hospital without acknowledging April's parents. Anne found this rude, but Michael smirked in triumph. "No, April, I already gave you away once," Michael said when April asked him to give her away at her wedding to Cecil. "Your father's right. We already attended one wedding. Why do we need to go to another?" Anne asked. "Fine then. We'll just elope to Vegas," Cecil said happily, when April tearfully relayed her parents' reaction to their engagement and upcoming wedding. Grudgingly, Anne agreed to watch Agatha for the 4-day weekend. She patted April's slight tummy and reminded her daughter that mommies didn't need to drink. Cecil had been overjoyed when they landed in Las Vegas. His smile broadened as the king of rock and roll pronounced them husband and wife. He remained happy as he settled at a blackjack table. However, Cecil's happiness quickly faded when the dealer wiped the smile off his face. April further angered Cecil by refusing to pawn her wedding and engagement rings. She shrugged indifferently when Cecil angrily threatened to pawn his father's Rolex watch instead, since her rings meant so much to her. Now, in a semi-private room, April tried to put on a happy face as her mother and daughter fussed over the newborn child. Agatha said "Baba" as she looked at the wrinkled bundle in her mother's arms. "Yes, that's your baby sister," Anne encouraged the delighted child. "Say, hi, baby sister. Hi, Evelyn." April was taken aback when John, Lisa, and David brought Annalise to see her new sister. Unable to hide her tears, April was deeply touched when John warmly remarked that the new baby was a beautiful addition to their happy family. "Oh, but Cecil can take you to the movies," Michael sniped. "Damn it, Dad!" April screamed, hot tears of rage spilling from her eyes. "Michael, really?" Anne shook her head. "John, how did you know we were here?" "My office is just 2 floors down," John reminded his ex-mother-in-law. "And Miss Bridget is a terrible gossip." "Oh, hi, Miss Bridget. How are you doing?" "John Cormier, you're a terrible man, and I don't care that you fixed that coffee machine," the middle-aged nurse teased. "Now, I don't know who's shouting, but this is a hospital. Please keep it down." "Daddy! Daddy! Daddy!" Annalise's voice interrupted John's thoughts. "What is it, sweetheart?" John replied, glancing at his reflection in the mirror over the sink. "Since the barbecue's not until 5, Nina wants to know if we can go to the movies?" Annalise asked eagerly. "Mrs. Simpson down the street is paying me to take Noreen and Nicholas. The movie lets out at 4:10. We'll be back long before the party," Nina added, peeking into the bathroom. Instinctively, John sucked in his slight paunch that was beginning to form. Turning from the mirror, he caught Nina's eyes scanning his bare torso and abdomen. "Yeah, let's see," John said, pulling his money clip from his pocket. "Thanks, Mr. John," Nina said with a smile as John handed her a 20 for Annalise's ticket. "Nina, you turned 18 when?" John asked, passing Annalise $10 for popcorn and soda. "A couple of months ago, on April 10th, Nina reminded him. "Remember? You came to my party." "Uh-huh. Well, now that you're 18, I guess it's okay if you call me John," John replied. "Oh, okay, John," Nina giggled, blushing as she hid a few pimples on her pretty face. "See you, John," Annalise said cheerfully. "No, ma'am," John said, playfully swatting Nina on the backside. "Annalise doesn't get to call me John until she's 98. 98? Annalise exclaimed. 108? John playfully countered. "Bye, Daddy," Annalise giggled. "Bye, John," Nina replied, her eyes lingering on John's bare chest. "Bye, Nina. Bye, Annalise," John said, watching Nina's figure as she turned away. "I think she likes you," Annalise whispered conspiratorially to her father. "Maybe," John acknowledged. "What did you have for lunch?" "Peanut butter and jelly," Annalise replied. "We need more apple jelly." "Annalise, come on," Nina called from the living room. "Bye, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," Annalise squealed, darting out of the master bathroom. Stepping into his shower, John adjusted the tap. He grumbled about the old shower's separate hot and cold taps, contrasting it with the new one that unified temperature control. "No wonder there are so many anti-government conspiracy theorists running around," John muttered. "Can't even take a shower without them wanting to know about it." John had just finished a late lunch in the cafeteria. Since 9:30, he had been working with Manuel to fix their steam rack, the appliance responsible for keeping their food hot and ready for the lunch rush. "Times like this I really miss Clyde," John confessed after the cafeteria supervisor had finished reprimanding them once again for not being finished yet. "Yeah, he was a sharp guy," Manuel agreed. "It's about time," the harried supervisor snapped when the pair gave the all clear and wriggled out from under the counter. "Yes, ma'am," John acknowledged, gathering his tools. While sitting and eating their lunch, John couldn't help but overhear Dr. Pruitt and another older man conversing nearby. John had never trusted Dr. Pruitt. The man always seemed a bit shady to him. As for the other man, his arrogant smirk suggested he and Dr. Pruitt were kindred spirits. "Peter, come on. If it's that easy, why isn't everyone doing it?" Dr. Pruitt inquired skeptically. Listening in, John picked up on Peter Ortega's scheme to buy up foreclosed properties, give them a quick facelift with a fresh coat of paint, and then sell them off for substantial profits. John knew from local news reports that the market in Oakleaf County was saturated with high-end housing, casting doubt on Peter's claims. Observing Peter Ortega's reaction to Dr. Pruitt's probing questions, John deduced that Peter was desperate for a cash infusion. Despite this, John begrudgingly admired the man's unwavering confidence, which was evident in his arrogant smirk that never seemed to fade. Returning home to his rented trailer, John looked at his finances. His promotion and bump up in pay had helped him tremendously, and managing to pay off his debt to Andrew Walker, his attorney had put a few more bucks into his account. In truth, John had paid Andrew $2,000 when Andrew sent John an invoice with "paid in full" stamped on it. "Of course, someone's fixing to go to big girl school," John crooned to his precious 4-year-old girl. "Me," Annalise declared as John prepared generic box macaroni and cheese and store-brand frozen fish sticks for their supper. "And damn, but I just don't like Sam Houston Elementary," John thought as he plopped Annalise into her booster seat for her supper. A second-grade teacher had died, drug overdose, right in front of her terrified students. The 5th-grade history teacher was arrested for inappropriately touching some of the boys. "What? Is there an appropriate way to touch a 10-year-old boy?" John asked as he sipped his beer. But, living in the area they lived in, John had no options, unless he wanted to pay the exorbitant fees St. Richard's Catholic School charged. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, I made a happy plate," Annalise declared a few moments later. "Oh? Guess you think you deserve a cookie for that, huh?" John teased, even as he reached for the bargain brand, creme-filled sandwich cookies. "You work at Alliance Square Hospital," a man said when John showed up on the courthouse steps on the first Tuesday of the month. "Yes, sir," John smiled, a little nervous at the man's enthusiasm. "Man, my mom's alive because of y'all guys," the man declared. Sir, I'm just in the maintenance department," John said. "I didn't have anything to do with your mom." "Uh-huh. Bullshit, too," the man smiled, pumping John's hand. "Maintenance? Make sure them lights are working. Make sure them doors open wide when the ambulance comes racing in. Make sure everything's working like it should be. Wasn't for y'all, that hospital would fall apart." "I don't know about all that," John laughed, "but thanks." The man learned why John was there. Together, he and John looked over the listings of homes that would be auctioned off that morning. "This, right here, 1210 Brown Street, that's right by that brand new Ann Richards Elementary School they just built," John's friend advised, even pointing in the general direction of the home. That's the one I'm going to bid on," John decided. John's new friend said he had some other people to talk to. He and John shook hands again, and the man walked away. John never knew it, but his new friend went to every person on the steps, showed them the listing for 1210 Brown Street, and strongly suggested they might not want to bid on that property. Each person knew, if he wanted to, John's unnamed benefactor could bankrupt them and never miss any of the money. He was a good friend to have and a fearsome enemy to avoid. "Next up, 1210 Brown Street, Oakleaf," the auctioneer's voice echoed across the gathered crowd. $10,000, John called out confidently. The auctioneer repeated the bid several times, met only with silence from the others. "Sold to the young man in the red shirt for $10,000, the auctioneer announced before swiftly moving on to the next property. David, DJ, Andy Cormier, and Michael Strickler soon arrived at 1210 Brown Street. As they surveyed the property, it became evident that John, with his expertise from work, was adept at managing the project and giving instructions. "Damn, my kid really messed up running off with that English bloke," Michael grumbled as they relaxed on the weathered back deck, enjoying ham and cheese sandwiches with ice-cold Gratchley's beers. "Yeah, well," John trailed off, not wanting to acknowledge that he still missed April, her warmth beside him in their small bed, the scent of her floral shampoo, even the sound of her soft snores. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, when will my room be ready?" Annalise's voice interrupted, announcing Grams's arrival onto the deck. "You all are supposed to be working, not sitting around drinking beer," Lisa teased, joining them. 168 hours, John replied to his daughter. "Aw, Daddy, that's forever," Annalise protested. Okay, how about 10,080 minutes?" John proposed with a smile. "Daddy, that's even longer." Annalise groaned, causing everyone to laugh. 604,800 seconds, John playfully countered. "Daddy!" Annalise stamped her foot in irritation. "That's too much." "Sweetheart, it's just 1 week," David reassured her with a smile. "By next Saturday, your new big girl room will be all ready." "Gramps, you're not fibbing, right?" Annalise demanded. "Oh, she's got your number," Lisa chuckled, teasingly tousling David's hair. Cautioning Annalise not to touch the still wet walls, John led her into her new room. She was thrilled to see the walls being painted in the pearl pink color she had chosen herself. The sandy beige carpet complemented the pink walls perfectly, along with the honey blonde wood trim. "Yeah, too bad there won't be any room for a bed," DJ teased. "You'll just have to sleep on the floor." "Uncle DJ, that's not funny," Annalise declared, standing proudly in the middle of her room. "My bed is going to be right here, and you can't come in here either." Nina, Owen, and Lisa Sanborn introduced themselves. They lived across the street, 2 houses down. Owen was a large man, 6 feet 3 inches tall and nearly 300 pounds. Lisa Sanborn, his wife, was petite, with long blonde hair and a wide, happy smile. Nina, at 14 years old, was already an experienced babysitter. "Nina, my mom's name is Lisa too." John smiled at the plump young blonde, and she giggled. "Who's Lisa too?" Lisa asked, entering the living room from her task of cleaning the hall bathroom. "Mom, this is Nina," John introduced them, "and her parents, Owen and Lisa Sanborn. Nina was just telling me she's a top-notch babysitter." Nina's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, her acne partially concealed beneath the blush. Owen and Lisa smiled warmly as Annalise was introduced to the teenager and her parents. "How late do you get to stay up?" Annalise demanded of the 14-year-old. 9:30, Nina replied, causing Annalise's eyes to widen. Daddy, Daddy, Annalise began. "No, no, and no," John interjected firmly. "When you're all grown up, like Miss Nina, then maybe." Lisa, Owen, and Nina toured the house, nodding approvingly as they noticed John had replaced the old maroon carpeting that once adorned the living room and hallway. "Actually, I think Stacy, the previous owner, called it magenta," Lisa remarked. "She called it magenta. We called it ugly," Owen quipped. "Annalise, your room looks beautiful," Nina complimented. "I picked out that color," Annalise boasted proudly. Nina proved to be an excellent babysitter. John called on her a few nights a month, especially when he had work commitments. Returning home, he often found Annalise fast asleep in bed, while Nina diligently worked on her homework at the kitchen table. After paying her, John would text Owen that Nina was on her way home. From his doorway, John would watch the stout blonde girl walk to the end of the driveway, checking both ways before crossing the street. Owen would be waiting outside, greeting his daughter with a hug when she reached their front door. "Why do you do that?" Nina complained to Mr. John one day. "I'm 14, you know." "Because there are all kinds of sick people out there," John replied, placing a fatherly hand on Nina's broad shoulder. "All it takes is for one of those sick bastards to see a beautiful young blonde out on the street all by herself. I don't even want to think about it." "He thinks I'm beautiful," Nina whispered excitedly to her mother. "Of course he does," Lisa smiled warmly, dabbing her nose with a crumpled tissue. "Because you are." "Mama, no, I'm not," Nina protested. "I'm chubby, and I have all these zits, and—" "You have a beautiful smile and those eyes just like mine." "That's how I got your daddy," Lisa said, her smile tinged with weariness. "All it took was for me to look his way and—" When Owen and Lisa finally told Nina the truth about why Lisa was always tired, John was the adult Nina ran to for comfort. He held the heartbroken girl, rocking her gently and murmuring soothing words. "It is taco night tonight. Are you staying? John asked, discreetly texting Owen about Nina's whereabouts. Daddy makes the best tacos in the whole wide world, Annalise chimed in. Nuh-uh, my mom, Nina playfully argued, but then her smile faded. A gloomy October day marked the loss of Lisa June Sanborn to liver cancer. John took Annalise out of school for the funeral, providing some distraction for Nina, which Owen appreciated. He was also grateful for John's unembarrassed, genuine hug of condolence for their neighbor and friend. Daddy, we back! Annalise's voice cut into John's memories again. Kitchen, John called out. Just finishing up the potato salad? Anything I can do, John? Nina asked, coming into the kitchen. John had not noticed earlier, but Nina's top emphasized her large chest. Her 32D breasts were threatening to spill out of the scoop neckline of her blouse, and the cleavage on display was magnificent. It was so cold in there. I about froze to death, Annalise complained. John looked at Nina's chest again. She leaned over and looked at his bubbling baked beans, then at the large bowl of potato salad. That's why you didn't notice, John thought, looking at Nina's delightful backside, stretching her jeans as she bent over. April had possessed 29 C breasts, which had been very nice to play with. But it had always been her backside that got John's attention. April, in a pair of Daisy Duke shorts, could get John to do just about anything short of murder. April had come to Annalise's 5th birthday party, dressed in very short khaki shorts. The cuffs continually rolled up, exposing much of April's very nicely rounded backside. More than once, David, John's father, nudged John to pull his eyes from his ex-wife's buttocks. They held the party at Annalise's new house. Annalise proudly showed April, Agatha, and Baba her new room. April acted dutifully impressed, but John could read the resentment in his ex-wife's eyes. After Annalise's 6th birthday, Annalise and Agatha and Evelyn had a sleepover. John had both grandmothers in attendance. Being the father of a 6-year-old girl had taught John that he knew nothing about little girls. You know more than you think you do, Anne smiled, as John stretched 2 blankets over the 4 kitchen chairs and made a fort in the middle of the living room. A few weeks after that sleepover, April asked if Annalise could come to their trailer for another sleepover. John reluctantly agreed, but only under the condition that Cecil was not present, or April managed to have the court order rescinded. Judge Glasspool's ruling prohibited Annalise from staying at April's residence as long as Cecil lived there. John felt conflicted about denying April those precious moments with her daughter, but he couldn't trust Cecil's volatile behavior around Annalise. Having witnessed Cecil's treatment of his own daughters, John couldn't bear the thought of Annalise being exposed to his unpredictable conduct. While John had never seen Cecil physically harm Agatha or Evelyn, whether at his own home or during their visits to the Blackham trailer for birthdays, the harsh glares, cutting remarks, and chilly atmosphere created by Cecil would inflict emotional harm that no child should endure. "You motherfucker," April seethed venomously at her ex-husband when John reminded her of the court order still in place against overnight visits while Cecil remained. At Annalise's 7th birthday party, Cecil cast a shadow over the festivities with his sullen presence. John noticed the resentment in April's eyes as Annalise proudly showed off the newly installed swimming pool, shaded glider, and her own flower bed in the backyard. "Hey, Cecil, we're out on the back deck," John called out, trying to inject cheerfulness into his voice. No, this spot suits me just fine," Cecil snapped from his usual spot on the living room couch. "Cecil, honey, everyone's outside. Come on, the girls are having an egg hunt," April urged, her frustration barely concealed. "I'm quite comfortable here," Cecil retorted bitterly. John silently hoped that Cecil wouldn't join today's barbecue. If he did, John hoped he would at least be in a tolerable mood. However, experience had taught him not to expect much when it came to Cecil Blackham. Hoping for absence or civility was usually in vain. "Okay, I better check if my dad needs any help," Nina announced, turning towards the door. "He sure does, plenty of it," John joked, earning giggles from Nina and Annalise. "Hey, Nina," John called out, clearing his throat nervously. "Yeah?" Nina responded, her hand on the doorknob. I mean, I'll talk to your dad about it, but would you like to go with me to Tokyo Gardens? John asked, feeling a surge of teenage awkwardness. On a date? Nina asked, her eyes widening in surprise at the unexpected invitation. Exactly, like a date, John confirmed. I was thinking maybe Wednesday night. I get off an hour early on Wednesdays and... Okay, Nina exclaimed excitedly, and before John could say anything more, she darted out of the house, leaving him both surprised and relieved that she had accepted his invitation. Daddy and Nina sitting in a tree, Annalise began singing playfully. Oh my God, they still sing that silly song? John chuckled, though his tone betrayed a hint of embarrassment. Lisa, David, and Andy were the first to arrive. Andy still lived at home, and John suspected his youngest brother might be gay, though it was a topic never openly discussed. DJ and his girlfriend, Cindy Knudsen, a curvaceous college student with waist-length light brown hair, arrived right after Lisa, David, and Andy. Cindy greeted John warmly with a hug and a kiss on the cheek, then playfully lifted Annalise into the air, eliciting squeals of delight from the girl. DJ leaned in to whisper to John that Cecil and April had just pulled up. And he looks positively thrilled, DJ muttered sarcastically to John. Yay, John responded flatly, his tone revealing his lack of enthusiasm. I wanted to bring dessert, but DJ said your neighbor's taking care of it, Cindy remarked, gently setting Annalise back on her feet. Honey, we brought our appetites. What more could we need? DJ chimed in. What did your daddy do? Lisa asked Annalise with a curious expression. Oh, DJ teased John as Lisa shot him a pointed glare. You're in for it now, Cindy sang out teasingly. That girl is just a child, Lisa hissed at John, pulling him gently by the arm into the kitchen. Mother, she's 18 years old. She's an adult, John defended. The last 18-year-old didn't teach you anything? David quipped. Hey, Cecil, listen. Don't sit on any of the furniture in here. John just had it all steam cleaned this morning, DJ warned as he opened the door for April, Cecil, Agatha, and Evelyn. He did what? Cecil asked, eyeing the couch skeptically. Yeah, thought it'd be dry in time for the party, but I just checked, and it's still pretty wet, DJ explained, guiding everyone toward the sliding glass door. Mr. John, are we going to have another hunt? Evelyn asked hopefully. At Annalise's 7th birthday party, John, Lisa, and Nina had hidden 50 plastic eggs all around the backyard. Most of the eggs contained bite-sized candy bars, but 3 of them held slips of paper. 1st place, 2nd place, and 3rd place. And Baba has the 1st place, John announced cheerfully. You're just lucky, Agatha grumbled. The 1st place prize was a blue-haired troll figurine. As Anne, Annalise's maternal grandmother, had said, the stuffed toy was so ugly it was cute. Evelyn was absolutely thrilled with the hideous figurine. April shot Cecil a sharp look. John caught the glare but didn't understand its cause, nor did he care about the potential turmoil brewing in the Blackham home. The day after the birthday party, Evelyn couldn't find her troll. She and Agatha searched their trailer, but the little figurine was nowhere to be found. April suspected Cecil had thrown it away while she and the girls were at church. He smirked and denied her accusations. Oh no, Baba. John smiled down at the girl. That's just for birthdays. But did you bring your bathing suit? So, Johnny, what's cooking? Cecil sneered as they stepped onto the back porch. Don't call him that, April hissed. How much have you had to drink? Not enough, Cecil hissed back. I still know where I am and why I'm here at this insufferable bastard's home. You are the insufferable one, April muttered. What? What was that, April? Cecil demanded. Okay, green cooler's got the beer, the red one's got sodas and juice boxes, John called out, pointing to the 2 large ice chests. Those of you who are driving, please use the red cooler. One, Cindy said to DJ, holding up one manicured finger. Look, just because you're beautiful, smart, and sweet, and I love you, doesn't mean you can tell me what to do. DJ smiled, opening the red cooler and digging out a diet soda. Does too, Cindy said. Does not, DJ countered. Uh-huh, Cindy persisted. Look, you two, don't make me put you in timeout, John threatened playfully as DJ gave Cindy a quick kiss. Uh-huh, Cindy muttered, wrapping her arms around DJ's waist. Nuh-uh, DJ retorted. Hey, Nina called out, stepping onto the back deck. Nina was dressed in a too short, too tight t-shirt over her bikini top. John couldn't help but glance down at her stark white bikini bottoms and her tanned, sleek legs. "Nina, come on!" Annalise shouted from where she and her sisters were splashing about in the pool. Nina smiled and lifted the t-shirt up. David, DJ, and John stole a glance as Nina's impressive chest came into view. The two patches of cloth barely contained her 32D breasts as she flung the t-shirt onto one of the three chaise loungers. David, DJ, and John couldn't help but admire Nina's figure as she scampered over to the in-ground pool. "Eyes back in that head," Cindy laughed, slapping DJ's buttocks playfully. "You too," Lisa growled at David, giving him a light pinch on his upper arm. "What's this? You got something to ask me?" Owen cheerfully demanded, wrapping John's head in an affectionate headlock. "Desserts on the kitchen table, chocolate pie, banana cream pie, and 7-Up cake?" "Wanted to ask you, dude, when's the last time you took a shower?" John said, squirming in Owen's friendly grip. "Really? That's what you wanted to ask me?" Owen laughed, releasing John. "Beers in which one?" "Green one," John answered, lighting the coals in the grill. "Dad, can you check on the brisket?" "Looks like James Bond's here," Owen muttered, nodding toward Cecil, who sat on the shaded glider, guzzling his second barley Turling's beer. Spreading cheer and joy wherever he goes," John quipped. "Seriously, if you want to take Nina out, I'm all right with it," Owen said, popping the top of a can of St. Elizabeth lager. "Brisket's about 10, maybe 15 minutes away from being perfect," David announced. John watched April pull her legs from the pool, where she had been watching the girls, and walk over to where a sullen Cecil sat, slowly rocking back and forth on the glider. The moment April's buttocks touched the padded bench, Cecil hefted himself up and marched to the green cooler. "Marco!" Nina called out. "Polo!" Agatha, Evelyn, and Annalise responded cheerfully. April approached the back deck, catching John's attention as he kept an eye on the girls in the pool. "John, Agatha's birthday's just a couple of weeks away," April said. "She'll be 7, John agreed. "God, they're just growing like weeds, aren't they? And right after that, Annalise will be 8. "And listen, we'd really like to have a sleepover," April started. "Not at Mama's house," April clarified, ignoring John's question about her father's health. "Yeah, April, how is Michael doing?" David asked, pursing his lips as Cecil carelessly dropped the bottle top from his barley Turlings onto the lawn on his way back to his perch on the glider. "The stroke was really bad," April admitted quietly. "That's why Mom doesn't want to do a sleepover at her house." "Oh, want to have it here? They can have a swimming party and—" John suggested, trying to diffuse the tension. "God damn it! She wants to do it at her house, our house, where we live," April exploded. "Just can't stand it, eh, Johnny? The better man took your woman?" Cecil sneered as he returned to the deck. "Hey, better man, pick up your bottle top, huh?" David interjected, pointing to Cecil's discarded bottle cap. "Hey, Johnny boy," Cecil taunted further. "Dad, check on the brisket, okay?" John redirected, hoping to change the subject. "April, I'm sorry, but—" A squeal from the pool interrupted, drawing everyone's attention as Nina successfully tagged one of the girls. John began grilling some hamburgers while keeping an eye on the kids. "Nina likes the burnt edges of the brisket," John commented as David transferred the brisket to a platter. "So, because your wife left you for a real man," Cecil continued his drunken taunts. "Cecil, be quiet," April snapped. "You are not helping." "What? Sooner or later he's just going to have to come to terms," Cecil retorted at April. "Marco," Agatha called out. "Polo," Annalise, Nina, and Evelyn responded enthusiastically. You're not going to—" Cindy started, looking at John with concern as Cecil persisted with his taunts. "Hey, girls, who wants hot dogs? Who wants hamburgers?" John called out cheerfully. "I want a hot dog," Evelyn exclaimed, then squealed when Agatha tagged her. "Can I have a hamburger, Mr. John?" Agatha asked eagerly. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, I want a burger," Annalise chimed in. "No brisket?" Nina inquired, guiding the girls towards the pool steps. "Mr. David's trimming off the burnt edges for you," John reassured Nina, earning a grateful smile. "Seriously, you aren't—" Cindy started, shooting a hateful glare at Cecil, who continued muttering under his breath. Cindy, it's like dealing with a 2-year-old. If you tell them to be quiet, you're just giving them attention. Let them tire themselves out, John explained casually. Oh, you think you're quite clever, don't you, Johnny? Cecil snarled when he caught on to John's remark. Cecil, hot dog, hamburger, or brisket? John asked politely, trying to diffuse the tension. I'll have none of your goddamn food, thank you very much, Cecil snapped bitterly. John, sometimes a bad kid needs a good spanking, Owen interjected, standing tall. And maybe his mouth washed out with soap, DJ added. Cindy, I brought you some brisket and John's famous beans. Well, the lot of you can just kiss my arse, cheeky bastards, Cecil spat. April, car, now. Get your kids. We're not staying where we're not welcome. You're not getting into any car with that drunk, John said firmly to April. And he's damn sure not leaving here with those girls. Now, see here, Cecil started, shoving John. Don't try that again, Owen intervened, pushing Cecil backward. You be a good little boy and go sit down while the grown-ups have their meal. Fuck you, you bloody bastard, Cecil snarled. This is called a half Nelson, Andy announced, coming up from behind Cecil and grabbing him. I say, Cecil cried out in surprise. And this, Andy continued, tightening his hold, is a full Nelson. Damn it, man! Release me! Release me this very instant! Cecil protested loudly. And this, Andy joked, adding a playful hip grind against Cecil's backside, is a Father Nelson. Hey, DJ, grab his legs, huh? Still laughing at Andy's remark, DJ swiftly moved to secure Cecil's thrashing legs, and together they held him firmly. Cindy, grab his car keys, huh? Andy instructed, as he and DJ maintained their grip on the struggling and cursing Cecil. Okay, got them, Cindy confirmed, holding up Cecil's car keys that she had retrieved from his baggy shorts left pocket. Now go sit down while we eat. Then, either I or DJ will drive your sorry ass home, Andy said firmly, nodding to DJ to release his grip on Cecil's legs. Father Nelson, DJ chuckled. Andy, you're just wrong for that, you know? Oh my God, John, what's in these beans? Cindy exclaimed. I told you, special ingredients, DJ interjected. Good, aren't they? Thank you, Nina said, squeezing onto the bench next to John. John queried as Nina snuggled against him. For getting me the burnt ends, Nina clarified. Hey, I'm the one who trimmed them off for you, David protested good-naturedly. Yes, I'd like to report I am being held against my will, Cecil grumbled into his cell phone. No, you ain't. You can walk your sorry ass out of here any time, Andy retorted. You just ain't driving, that's all. Thank you, April whispered gratefully to John. She also whispered a sincere thanks to DJ and Andy as she sat down next to Lisa with her plate of food. Yes, ma'am, 1210 Brown Road, Cecil continued on the phone. Thank you. He's going to regret this, DJ whispered to John. I know I am, John shrugged. Nina smiled as John's arm dropped around her waist and she snuggled closer, only shifting slightly, when Owen gave a slight throat clearing. Nina and Daddy, sitting in a tree, Annalise's voice rang out playfully. Annalise in her room, punished for 100 years, John playfully sang out, earning giggles from Annalise. Daddy, you wouldn't dare, Annalise retorted. I haven't done anything wrong. Ain't a word, David interjected. Oh, let me, DJ eagerly volunteered when a loud knock echoed at the front door. No, let me, Andy insisted. That would be for me, Cecil smirked, striding confidently toward the sliding glass door. Yes, it would be for you, John agreed, following DJ and Andy into the house. Yes, officer, thank you for coming, Cecil greeted smugly as an Oakleaf police officer stood on the porch. I was manhandled by these two, and they removed my car keys without my consent. I might add, and... Sir, have you been drinking? The police officer interrupted, his expression stern. I might have had one or two, but I assure you I'm in full control of my faculties, Cecil snapped back. Now, about these two... Sir, step out onto the porch, the police officer ordered. Cecil didn't help his case, stumbling slightly as he transitioned from the plush living room carpet to the wooden porch slats. John, DJ, Andy, and April watched as a field sobriety test was administered. Cecil grumbled, but wisely kept silent, when he was eventually escorted to the back seat of the police cruiser. "Okay, now, your side of the story?" the officer asked John, acknowledging him as the homeowner. "He was already pretty buzzed when he got here, grabbed himself a beer, and hadn't stopped drinking. They got here about 5, John explained. "So, about how many beers is that?" the officer inquired, checking his watch. "About 3 of them, I think. These are the 16-ounce barley turlings," John replied. "So, 48 ounces in, an hour and a half," the policeman interjected. "Yes, sir. And when he said he was leaving and told his wife and his 2 daughters to get in the car, well, we weren't about to let that happen," Andy chimed in. "We told him he was free to leave, but he wasn't driving," DJ added. "So, how long were you planning to hold him here?" the policeman questioned. "Until we finished eating. Then either I or my brother here was going to drive them home. That's their minivan over there." Andy pointed towards the Dodge Caravan, parked on the curb. "Sir, you're damned lucky they stopped you," the officer said firmly, opening the rear door of the cruiser. "Now, you let one of them drive you and your family home, and do not get behind the wheel of that car until you've sobered up. Hear me?" "My wife is perfectly capable of driving us home," Cecil snapped. "Your wife and your daughters have had enough," April retorted sharply, stuffing the car keys into her bottomless purse. "You can walk home for all I care, but we're not coming with you." "I haven't had anything to drink. I've been manning the grill," John interjected. "I'll give him a ride home." John stepped out onto the back deck and bid his guests farewell in case they left before he returned. Annalise and Nina reminded him not to forget about dessert. They weren't planning on leaving any time soon. Nina blushed slightly, and Owen raised an eyebrow when John leaned over and gave Nina a quick kiss on her cheek. She grinned back at John and chuckled when Annalise resumed singing her playful song. John shook his head fondly as Agatha and Evelyn joined in the singing. "Thank you," April said to John, her glare softening towards a slightly chastened Cecil. John replied as he unlocked his sedan. The first few moments of the drive were filled with tense silence. Cecil finally spoke up when John turned onto Manning Road instead of continuing straight on Roberts Drive. "It's a shortcut. Comes up behind the high school," John explained casually. "I suppose you're quite proud of yourself," Cecil snarled as they slowed for a red light. John asked, wincing as the car next to them boomed and thudded. "Yes, believe you've finally shown me up in front of my wife and children," Cecil snapped. "Cecil, I don't give a damn about any of that. Jesus Christ, turn that crap off, you punk-ass dickhead," John snapped, then yelled at the smirking kid in the car next to theirs. Yes, must truly stick in your craw, losing your beautiful wife to a better man," Cecil said as the light turned green. John replied, then sighed in relief as the booming car pulled off the road into a gas station. "So, nothing to say, Johnny boy?" Cecil taunted as John pulled to a stop in front of Cecil's trailer. "Oh, no, I believe you've said it all," John smiled. "But look around, Cece boy," John said as Cecil opened the car door. "The better man is going into a trailer, alone. Oh, shit. Hope you have a spare key to the trailer. Your loving wife has the keys. So, better man, have a good night there." Well, now I am in a pickle," Cecil admitted to himself as he shut the door to John's car. "Marco," John heard when he stepped onto the back porch. "Where's April?" John asked, glancing around. "And Owen?" Andy hinted. Was Lisa's response as she continued with the cleanup. "Marco?" Nina called out again. "Polo." Annalise, Evelyn, and Agatha called out in response. "Minute y'all left, 2 of them were making goo-goo eyes at each other," David whispered as he scraped the grill clean. "You're going to give me the recipe for those beans," Cindy said, carrying 2 mugs of coffee onto the back deck. "Sweetheart, you wanted the 7-Up cake?" "Yeah," DJ agreed. "Dessert?" Annalise called out from the pool and screeched when Nina tagged her. "Dessert," John confirmed. "I don't think you and her husband were even out of the driveway, and she was dragging Owen across the street to his house," Lisa whispered bitterly. "I swear, that woman, and right in front of her children, too." "So, who wants what?" Nina asked as the 3 girls wiggled on to the bench seats. "What do you want?" John asked, and Nina smiled happily at him. You are definitely giving me that recipe, Cindy repeated as she got into DJ's car after dessert had been consumed. God, I'm driving a minivan? A minivan? DJ complained as he started Cecil's car. And don't be getting any ideas, Cindy. It's burning oil, Andy observed as he got into the rear seat of their parents' car. Yeah, it is, John agreed. Mr. John, can we spend the night? Evelyn asked eagerly as John stepped into the living room. John smirked, noticing Agatha and Annalise peeking around the corner. It seemed they had elected Evelyn as their spokesperson. Well, Baba, do you have your pajamas here? John asked. No, Evelyn admitted. How about your toothbrush? Do you and Agatha have your toothbrushes here? John inquired. No, sir, Evelyn replied. Then sure, I guess you can spend the night. Let me clear it with your mama, John said, giving Evelyn a light swat on her backside. Where's Miss Nina? In the kitchen, Nina called out. Do you want any more of this chocolate pie? Yes, Annalise exclaimed. Your turn, Mr. John? Nina asked with a smile as John entered the kitchen. Yes, Annalise agreed, giggling. Hi, sweetheart, John greeted Nina, pulling out his cell phone. Let me text their mom, and then I'll help you. April didn't respond to John's text, and Owen didn't reply to Nina's either. So, John found an age-appropriate movie for Annalise, Agatha, and Evelyn. Then, he made Parmesan popcorn for the girls. While John was selecting the movie, DJ pulled up in front of Cecil's trailer. He smirked as he saw Cecil sitting on his rickety porch, head hanging low. Cecil looked up, his eyes tired, as DJ came to a shuddering halt. Van's burning oil, DJ commented, handing Cecil his keys. Cecil peered into the van but didn't see his wife or daughters. He stared dejectedly as DJ got into the passenger seat of his own car. DJ and Cindy backed out of the trailer park, while Cecil wearily entered his home. After the movie, John constructed a blanket fort in the living room. The girls eagerly crawled into the fort and began giggling, whispering, and squealing with delight. Sending Nina home, John texted. I'm 18. You don't have to make sure I get home, Nina huffed as John stepped out onto the porch. Hey, now that we're dating? Yeah, I do, John said, giving her a hug. Bye, love you, Nina said, stepping up on tiptoes to kiss him. Love you too, John replied and waved to Owen. April didn't leave Owen's house. John slept on the couch in the living room while Annalise, Agatha, and Evelyn eventually tired themselves out and fell asleep in their fort. Hey! Nina woke John in the morning, and quietly, with some touches and kisses, they made a crumble cake for the girls' breakfast. And we get coffee? Evelyn whooped when they were given mugs of weak coffee, with a generous amount of milk in it. I think it's against the law to eat coffee cake and not have coffee. I could get in serious trouble, John joked, and the girls, including Nina, laughed. The girls helped John clear away the remnants of the living room chaos. They locked themselves in Annalise's room to play board games. Nina had already cleaned up everything from their breakfast and was drying her hands when there was a hard pounding on the front door. A glimpse through the peephole revealed an enraged, swaying Cecil. Nina fearfully pressed herself against John as Cecil slammed his fist repeatedly into the door. Good God, what? What the hell is wrong with you? John demanded, yanking the door open. Tell April and her kids to come on, Cecil slurred angrily, trying to push his way into John's house. April is not here. Are you drunk? Cecil, it's not even 10 o'clock in the morning, John said, shoving Cecil backward. Oh, likely story, Cecil snarled, trying again to push past John. If she isn't here, then where... Nina slipped out through the open door. She cautiously circled around John and Cecil, then scurried toward her own home. And even if she was, I damn sure wouldn't let her or those girls get into... Cecil, what? What happened to your front bumper? John said, noticing that the front bumper was no longer attached to the front of Cecil's idling van. How would I know? Cecil muttered, glaring at John. Cecil jabbed his finger into John's chest. John resisted the urge to break the drunken man's finger, to break the drunken man's nose. Your brother DJ ferried it back to my place yesterday. Probably ran into something, Cecil accused. Very unlikely, John said calmly, standing firm. I've no time for April, come, now, Cecil thundered, his words slurred. No, I will not, April's voice rang out from behind Cecil. Oh, quite clever. Quite clever indeed. Cecil whirled around, glaring at April with drunken intensity. You are drunk, April stated firmly, her voice tinged with exasperation. Now come on, get your brats. We're leaving, Cecil demanded, gripping April's upper arm tightly. I am not, April began to protest, attempting to pull her arm away. Cecil, let go of me. You're hurting me. At that moment, a police cruiser screeched to a halt just behind Cecil's minivan. Cecil turned and shot a hateful glare at John, releasing April's arm in the process, causing her to stagger to the ground. Really? You called the police? Cecil snarled, taking a wild swing at John. John deftly dodged the swing, stepping back as the police officer swiftly exited the cruiser and hurried towards them. Sir, stop! The police officer commanded, intervening between Cecil and John. Morning, officer. Fancy meeting you again. John smirked, recognizing the officer from the previous evening's incident. The mystery of the missing bumper was swiftly solved. Cecil had lost it when he rear-ended a pickup truck on Whiting Road. Cecil failed the field sobriety test, and this time the officer placed handcuffs on him and escorted him unceremoniously to the waiting police cruiser. Girls are in Annalise's room, John informed April. Mind watching them a bit longer? April requested, her gaze shifting towards Owen's front door. Sure thing, John nodded. There's a couple of burgers left. I can whip up some lunch for them. Thanks. Oh, hey, your lawyer, what was his name? April inquired. Andrew Walker. I'll get his number for you, John replied, turning off Cecil's minivan and removing the key from the ignition. Yeah, Cecil, you're the better man, John muttered to himself, watching the police cruiser drive away with a subdued Cecil in the back seat. Keep telling yourself that. Michael Strickler's health hadn't improved by the time Owen and April tied the knot. Consequently, John found himself in the unusual position of walking his ex-wife down the aisle. He smiled as he and April followed Evelyn, Agatha, and Annalise towards the altar where Brandon Wright, Nina, and Owen awaited. That prenup. Man, did she gripe? Owen confided to John as they posed for pictures in the reception hall. But I made it clear she's known to trade up and consequences be damned. No signature, no wedding. Hawaii. They're off to Hawaii, Nina lamented as she and John queued up for some overpriced drinks. Yeah, leaving the girls with us, John sighed. Is there no justice? Babe, you'll take me to Hawaii, right? Nina batted her eyelashes at him. Babe, I'll take you anywhere you want to go, John grinned, acknowledging the bartender who slid a St. Elizabeth's lager down the bar. But if we get married in December, we could go to Benhurst. They have skiing and... Rewas. Nina mused aloud, her arm wrapped around John's. John didn't recall proposing to Nina, but he didn't dispute her point. She had willingly and happily given herself to him, looking up at him with complete devotion. There was nothing she held back from him. He was her man. Smiling at the blonde teenager beside him, John knew he'd be foolish to let her slip away. He made a mental note to visit the jewelry store at 2 Alliance Square during his lunch break on Monday. Giving Nina a quick kiss on the lips, John hurried over to Owen, who was enjoying a glass of champagne. The big man regarded John with an amused expression. If you're asking what I think you're asking, the answer is yes. You better, Owen said with a grin. That girl's been in love with you ever since you moved in across the street from us. That's all I needed to hear, John chuckled, and the two men shared a heartfelt hug. And when I get married, Annalise began as she posed for a photograph with her father. When you're 100 years old, John teased. Daddy, Annalise protested. Mr. John, if I get married, will you walk me down the aisle? Evelyn asked as John helped her carry her plate of food. Baba, you have a daddy, and Mr. Owen's your new stepdaddy, John gently reminded Evelyn, placing her plate next to Agatha's on the table. Shouldn't one of them be the one to... But Daddy doesn't know how to build a fort, Evelyn reasoned, and Mr. Owen doesn't have a swimming pool. Well then, yes, I will walk you down the aisle, John agreed warmly, smiling at Evelyn's logic. John, thank you, April murmured quietly as they danced together. The music ceased, and April withdrew from John's embrace before he could respond. She passed Nina, who approached John with a radiant smile on her face. Treat him right, April advised her new stepdaughter before walking away.